Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the Bison Workshop. I'm Bob, and let me start off by saying sorry it's taking so long to put up a video. I've just had a lot going on right now, and wintertime things are a little stressful for me. Uh, I just spent a ridiculous $881 to put 200 gallon of fuel in my LP gas tank. I think that's getting a little ridiculous. But anyway, wanted to go over a scope. I had, if you guys remember, I had bought this scope after the very first one that I got, and because I liked the first one so much, I bought a second one. This one had a haze around it, and I couldn't seem to get rid of it. So I mentioned it to ohhunt about it, and he offered to send me another one, and I proceeded to let him know that I liked the scope, and I liked it so well I bought a second one, because eventually I'd like to change all my scopes to a side parallax knob instead of having that bell turn, simply because while I'm sighting in a gun, or if I'm looking at a animal that I'm going to shoot, I have to reach up there while I'm looking through the scope and try to turn that, and these things are pretty hard to turn on these other scopes. This one here, for instance, is a Westlake, and there's two things wrong with this scope. It's a great scope. I don't have no problem with the scope as far as usage or visibility. It's very accurate. I've never had a problem with it not being accurate and hold its true. But you know, this thing's pretty hard to turn, especially when you're reaching out there so far to try to turn it while you're resting your gun up against your shoulder. You know, it's a stretch, and it's kind of hard to turn that, so you have to turn it and then look in your scope. And I like to be able to look in it and see where it's focused, because when you turn this, it will bring it into focus, whatever yardage you're looking at. And the other thing that I don't like about this Westlake is the fact that it's got this lighted reticle on it. To me, that lighted reticle is useless. Number one, they're, even on its lowest setting, is too bright and kind of blinds you as far as looking at your target. So, and another thing, this thing's in the way. It should be somewhere else, like maybe on the side here, like the ohhunt scope is. When you go to use a Tacticam, you can't put it on there because this is in the way. You can get it on there somewhat, but it ain't going to hold on there very good because there's not a whole lot holding it. So that's why I'm replacing all the Westlakes and CV Life and Penty. Eventually I'd like to have an ohhunt scope on every one of my guns. I am a true fan of the ohhunt scopes. Let me put this away. So in talking to him, I went ahead and sent him a link to the video where I had put that scope on my Pro, and he offered to send me a new one, but then after he finished with that, he said, "Hey, I would like for you to review one of our scopes." So, uh, so I agreed. I said, "Yeah, that's fine. But the problem is, if I review it, I get to keep it because my time's worth something." So, you know, you're talking advertising, and I got a gnat in here. You got advertising, my time, and stuff like that. It's worth the scope. Now, this scope here is a 6x24x50 FFP, first focal plane. And I've already done the review on that one. Now, the one that he sent me was this little bugger. Thing looks weird without that bell on the end of it, don't it? But this one here is a 1x6, or no. I need to get a magnifying glass. Let me get my magnifying glass because I'm blind as a bat. Don't need glasses to look through a scope. I have to take my glasses off to look through a scope. But if I want to see these words, I've got to have a freaking glasses and a magnifying glass. This is a 1x6x24 IR. I don't know what the IR means. Don't get me to lying. But it's got a lighted reticle, green and red, I believe. Let's see here. We got red, bright, less bright, less bright, less bright, less bright, less bright. Yep, it's only red. So it's only got the red crosshair. It don't have green. Some of them, like the Westlake, has green and red. It'll do 5 settings in red, 5 settings in green, and off. So that works pretty good. It's got a nice click to it, and it's got a lot of settings. It's got from 0, which is off, to 11 settings. It's got 11 different brightnesses. So that's, instead of it being 2 or 5 red, 5 green, they just added all of them as red. And you have the lever on it for your zoom, and it works pretty smoothly. It's a little tight, but I'm sure it will loosen up over time. But then it's got your focus ring on it, and it's smooth. I really like that. It's a lot better than some of these ones I've seen. The Westlake, they're really loose, so they can be moved easily. Then you got your lock turrets. You lift up, turn it, and the clicks feel really nice and sound crisp. And then you lock it back down. Same way with the windage. Nice action. It don't feel like it's gritty. And it's about the same as that one. And then you got the clicks over here that are a little different. They go a little further before they click. Now I got to turn it back off. We're on 9, 10, 11, and off. Alright. Now, I did try this scope. I tried it on my Avenger. That is the best shooting gun I have. That and my Gauntlet here. You can't ask for a better shooting gun. So I used the best shooting gun to test out my scopes. I used the original scope rings, which are in this box, but I have a pair that are identical to it. These are the scope rings that they come with. They got 2 screws on each side, and these are the high ones. You can get them in high, medium, and low. Most of my guns take the high ones, and that gets me about 1/4 inch off of the barrel with the end of the scope. And when I put this on the Avenger, I went to sight it in, and it needed to come up. Now this has been a problem for every one of these. Every single one of these scopes. The 6x24x50 and the 1x6x24. I had to shim with well, as soon as I find it here. Basically, I used this stuff right here. I had some scrap stuff that I had cut off of a tank because I couldn't get it back off my tank. I had to cut it off. So I got a sheet of this that was cut out the very same size. And I just cut me some strips as wide as the scope ring that would fit in the bottom of it, and then shimmed it with that on the back side of it, simply because when I was coming up, it ran out of travel, and I still had 6 to 8 inches left on the target at 30 yards to get to 0. And that's not a problem per se. It can be a problem depending on how you install it. When you have this scope mounted and you have to shim the back side of it so that it will bring the barrel up. Basically, you're bringing the scope down, and in the front and high in the rear. So I had to shim the bottom side of this scope ring right here, and that changed it. But when you shim one of them, you start ending up with a crease. So in other words, when you have this scope ring on there, well, I can't put it on there because it's, let's see here, I ain't got my crap together here. Let's call this a scope ring. If you got that sitting in there and and they're parallel with the bottom of the scope ring, when you raise or shim this backside, you're bringing that up. Well, that means that the outer edge is going to be hitting the scope. This end's going to have a gap between it on this side of it. So then you have this little point on the edge of that that's going to be digging into your scope when you go to tighten it down. Now, if you tighten it really tight, you're going to end up with a crease and may even crush your tube. Now, the chances of that happening are slim to none, depending on your strength. If you're wise about how you tighten it down, you shouldn't have an issue. But I thought maybe the scope rings was the problem. Wrong. The scope is running out of travel. And I think it's in the lead screw. Now, I can't prove it because I'm not going to take this thing apart. I think that they put the lead screw nut in the wrong place on the lead screw and attached the crosshair to it so that when you go up, you're running out of travel. Now, if they would have turned it a couple threads before they installed it, you might have been okay. But the fact remains is, none of the scope rings are the problem. It's got to be in the scope, because I tried the original scope rings that came with it. Then he sent me another set of scope rings, which I have on my Avenger with the other ohhunt scope, and I had to shim it too with the new scope rings that were a higher dollar scope ring, and instead of 2 of these screws on each side, it's got 3 screws on each side. So the scope ring's not the problem. Now, as far as this scope working good, once you get it shimmed and on the gun, it works great. The focus works good, the zoom works good, and the turrets work good, and the lighted reticle works good. I would rather them eliminate the lighted reticle and put a parallax on it adjustment, but since you don't have the bell on the end of it, I think that the parallax is pretty much useless, especially for a 1x6x24 scope. This is basically a scope that you would use for a short range gun. You're not going to get a whole lot of distance with this. So this scope has its uses. Now, I'm never going to use this scope, and I'll tell you why I'm never going to use this scope. In fact, as soon as this scope is reviewed, it's probably going to go on my site for sale. This scope has a dot in the center, and it's a pretty big dot. And if I can get you guys a picture of what it looks like, I'm charging my Tacticam right now. I'm going to try to get you guys a picture. If I can get you a picture of that reticle or crosshair, I'll add that right now. Now, in the center, that big dot, when I had it on my gun, looking out the window of my kitchen to my 30-yard target, it actually covered my stick-on targets, which is these. The black dot in the center covers this whole red circle completely. You can't see it. Then it's got a line that covers this whole outer line or area. The last one covers it completely. So the only thing you can see is these 2 in the center. Well, we're not aiming for there. We're aiming for the red dot. So when I shoot and I hit center, I can't see that I hit center until I move the scope off so that I can see where I hit. Now, if you've got a target that's got 10 shots already shot in it, I go by memory. And you would have to with this scope. You definitely got to go by memory. So you have to remember every single shot that you have in there so that when a new shot goes in there, you know where it went. So that's a problem for me. In fact, that for me is a deal breaker. I like a crosshair that's thin so that when I'm shooting, I don't have to take my eye out of that scope to see where I shot. And even the gun jerking a little bit can make you blink and then you don't get to see your shot. But you know, at least I can still see the where the projectile hit. So that's the only downfall for this scope. Now that's a preference thing. That doesn't mean that this scope won't work for you. You may be fine with that crosshair. I'm not fine with that crosshair. I'm anal when it comes to that crosshair. So, but it's well built. It's got some heft to it for as little as it is. Pretty hefty scope. In fact, I think it's heavier than this one, and it's a bigger scope. Imagine that. But you can see the difference. Wow, that's a little scope. But other than that, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't be a good scope for a short range gun. But for me, it won't work. I need that crosshair so that I can see where my slugs are hitting. Not to mention, if I was shooting a squirrel and I was aiming for his head, the dot in the center would cover his head and then some. So I would have to kind of judge where I would put that in the center of the center dot of the scope. And I don't like to miss. And if I miss, I'm pissed off. And I don't like being pissed off either. Although people like to make me pissed off a lot, but just had one piss me off this morning. Woke up to a bad deal. But anyway, it comes with a set of scope rings like this, and they're not bad scope rings. They're double screwed and on each side, and I like the fact that it's got the square hex head with the hole in the center, so you can use an Allen wrench to put in that hole and turn it to tighten it up. So I like that. These are nice scope rings. So it comes with those and an Allen wrench. Comes with the scope. Then it comes with your flip caps, and they're not bad. I don't use them because they're more aggravating than anything, but some people like to use them to keep dust off of their lens. I just take my t-shirt and clean mine. But they work pretty nice, and they got a nice spring load to them. Although if you're in the woods, you don't want to spring it so it bounces like that. You'd have to scare every animal within 2 miles of you. And then they got the little one here. I can't get over how tiny the scope is. But it kind of reminds me of them old Daisy BB gun scopes. A little more higher quality, but that's what you get with this scope. Now, I'm not telling you not to go buy this scope. To each his own. Like I said, that crosshair is a preference thing for me, and for me, that crosshair means everything. So then it comes with directions, and obviously it's not for this scope because this one don't have a bell. Does that look the same to you? No. So it's got a universal owner's manual. Probably don't tell you nothing. Comes with the cleaning rag. Then it comes with the battery, which I've already installed in this. And they do come in a nice box. And I keep every box for every scope. Simply because if I ever want to resell them, I want the guy that gets it, or girl, that gets it, to have the original box. So that's about as far as I'm going to go with this review, simply because I've already got all my guns set up I'm not going to install them and show you guys something I can already explain to you. So then it's got this cover that goes over it, and these are really nice boxes. In fact, these can be used for other stuff, but it's not a bad scope. Visibility is good, crystal clear, just don't like that crosshair. And I told him that, I said, I don't know about that crosshair, I don't like that. He hasn't gotten back to me yet, but anyway, that's my review on that scope. Now, would I buy this scope? No, I would not buy this scope. But that's because my preferences are different than other people's preferences. Not everybody's the same. If everybody was the same, we wouldn't need reviews. So keep that in mind when you go to buy this scope. If you think this scope will work for you, by all means, let them know that Bison sent you. If you don't tell them nothing. Hope you guys are having your Trump coffee today. Now it's starting to get cold. So don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. You guys have a good one. Later.